Hey, I'm Jordan.
And I'm Ashley. We're the founders of For the Good, a community created to empower and elevate you to live a purpose-driven life.
Our mission is to bring light into our world, and to do so, we have learned that it must start within.
We are so glad to have you here with us. Have you ever experienced something difficult, whether it be the ending of a relationship, the loss of a job, the passing of a loved one, just for someone to tell you to just move on? These three simple words make us believe that what we have experienced isn't worth our time to grieve over. And many times we feel we have to stuff how we feel away because our society makes us believe it can make other people uncomfortable for doing so. Today we are going to be talking more on why we as human beings must feel to heal. As I've shared before in previous episodes, my dad passed away at the age of 53 back in 2015. And I remember just a couple days after it happened, I went back to work, and just the people around me in the office would tell me just to move on, and that made me feel like my feelings weren't valid. And a lot of times I found myself just sitting at my desk, and in return, people that I worked with would just walk around me. And I even overheard somebody tell somebody else, oh, she'll be fine, rather than coming and consoling me. And I think that just by seeing that firsthand, I can see how too often people can get caught up in thinking that they should just move on and stuff those feelings away, but in turn, that doesn't serve us in any positive way.
Yeah, I think we live in a world where it's very important to kind of uphold the outside appearance of what you're trying to present, especially with, I know we talk a lot about social media, how everybody's putting on this face when they go online, always pretending everything's okay and always pretending they're out just having the best time, when in reality, anybody who experiences these problems, they almost feel like they can't say what they really want to say. Or if someone does take to social media and they post maybe a problem that they're having, it kind of sends a message to everyone else that, well, if I just leave a like, or if I just do a quick comment and say, hey, I'm thinking about you, all right, that's all they need. Now they're going to be fine. And when we hang out next week, hopefully they're not weird or anything. So I think people really tend to avoid harder conversations, whether it's due to not knowing exactly what to say or how to say it, or again, if people haven't experienced that themselves, what someone else is going through, then they truly don't know how to approach the situation. But I think we need to learn that it's not okay to just not talk about it. Not approaching it, not talking about it, or telling someone that you simply just have to get over what you're going through is just not the way to handle it, and that's never going to solve any issue. It's going to actually make it a lot worse when you're harboring those feelings and you're holding them with you every day.
Yeah, you make a good point that people can harbor these things within themselves, because I remember when I went to a grief workshop, there was a man in one of the groups, and he had his girlfriend who passed away over 20 years ago. And since then, he got married and had kids, but this was something that was always unresolved inside of himself. And finally, after 27 years, he said he finally came and got some help in this space to be able to find that healing within. So I think that too often people can get caught up in thinking it's better for them just to hold these feelings inside, but inevitably it is going to come out in some fashion along the way.
Absolutely. I also think just going forward, I mean, there has to be kind of this stigma that has to be broken in attempting to not only help heal other people, but just people to open up themselves. Especially from my point of view, coming from a man's point of view. Also, I know men in today's world, we are kind of brought up to believe that you have to be tough. You can't really show your feelings if you have emotions, or if you're upset or you want to cry, you have to do that in absolute being secluded. You can't show that to anyone, or it's a sign of weakness. So I think in general, a lot of men will hide what they're going through, thinking, well, I don't want to show that this is bothering me, and maybe if I ignore it for a long enough time, it's going to go away. And of course, what we know is that it doesn't go away. It actually makes the problem worse. Me, I know my cousin, for example, he's one of my absolute best friends, and there came a point where we finally got to a point in our relationship where we just got so open with each other. I mean, that was the first person close to me that I think I really opened up to and shared whatever problems I was going through. And, when you do that, I'm hearing from him stuff that he's going through. And ultimately, after years of this, I mean, he is my go-to. And a lot of times I know if there's something I'm going through, I do have a friend that is experiencing the same things that we can go back and forth and talk to. And that has been such a blessing in my life. And looking at my other relationships, I know with a lot of my friends, I've gotten so much closer because we are able to have very meaningful life talks. And if someone's going through something, I like knowing that I'm a person who can say, listen, if you have a problem, I'd love for you to tell me about it. If you want help, if you want advice, anything, I'm an open book. I'll say anything with you. And also, I want you to be open and honest with me. I won't judge, nothing like that. And I think there's a great benefit to have friends like that. And going forward, that's going to change a lot of lives if people learn to just be open with one another.
It's absolutely true that we live in a society that especially teaches men just to hold these different things inside, and it is a sign of weakness. But, I mean, you guys are going through hard things too, and it definitely helps to be able to feel like you can be more open and share and show any emotion that you have rather than feeling you have to carry that weight along with you. When you go back to the point of having connected with your cousin in this way, it is important to have these kinds of relationships. And, we have to keep in mind that maybe every person around us may not be that person for us or those people who we feel like we can trust, but it is important to be intentional about building relationships with people who we feel like we can trust, who will be able to accept us and love us unconditionally and know that there's this bond that they can come to you and you can come to them. I think connection is so incredibly needed, especially in this world today, because as you and I have talked about before, there's an incredible statistic right now of people who are going through and battling depression, anxiety, and related mental illnesses. And when we're telling people just to move on and to keep these feelings inside, that's not helping anybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And on that note, what we were going to talk about before, I know we wanted to mention how this has a physical toll as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a real thing to say the physical toll is as bad as the mental toll. I mean, I think that's a good metaphor to think of it as carrying all this extra weight, because every day that you're carrying that with you, it's just more and more tiring. It's more and more pressure on you. You're looking for a way to get rid of it, but instead when you're holding it in, you're just piling on more and more and more weight. So when you're able to express it and get rid of it, you just drop it off, and it's literally that feeling of dropping that weight from your shoulders and walking around with just feeling lighter, feeling better. And that was the big thing for me, was when I finally was able to open up. I not only felt that with myself, but I noticed the people I'm talking to, they had a lot of things to talk about that I never knew about them. So there's a mutual benefit when you can have that relationship with someone and you realize that you're helping each other through the hardest times of your lives.
It's great to be able to have those kind of connections with people. And I think that sometimes, to get started, people may not want to talk about it maybe with a particular family member. I've learned that it does help to be able to connect with somebody who may be unbiased in this space, just to be able to feel like you can talk about anything that you want. So this can be, a therapist or a community group, because like as I said, when I experienced the loss of my dad, I went through a grief workshop, and I would go and I would talk about all the things that I felt, and when you do this, you just feel too that people just get it. And I mean, you find yourself laughing about certain things because like, oh my gosh, I'm not the only person who feels this way. So I think that connection and community is so important to be able to bring this healing into yourself. You have to be able to feel to be able to heal yourself along the way.
Yeah, that's a very good point, because as I was saying, sometimes you want to talk with friends and you want to be open, and it's great to be able to do that if someone is able to have that conversation with you. But like Ashley said, sometimes there's things that you go through where you just feel unless someone has gone through the same thing, they just don't get it. And I need someone who truly understands these feelings, and not someone to just say, it's going to be okay, you'll be all right, but someone who can say, hey, I not only went through that same thing, but here's how I managed to handle it. Here's how I went through. Maybe this can help you too. So as Ashley said, in that case, there are so many resources out there that I think people just truly don't utilize. And really just going online and searching for something in your area, I guarantee most people will be able to find a type of group or community center that they can go and get specialized help for what they're going through, surrounded by people who have gone through the same thing. Also, anyone listening, as we've mentioned before on our podcast, everything that we talk about and we want to write about and discuss, we are open books as well. So anyone who feels that they may want to reach out to us or has questions for us, or if you hear something that we talk on the podcast that you're going through, again, we would love to hear from anyone. If you have something you want to say, to leave a comment, or again, you want someone just to talk to and hear you out, we are always here and we're always checking our messages and getting back to everyone that reaches out to us. We are a venue for you to look to for help as well. And I just want to remind everyone on that.
Absolutely, I agree. This is something that Jordan and I have also stepped into as part of a transformation, that these conversations that we're sharing with you in our blog, on social media, podcasts, and all of those different avenues, they haven't always come easy to be able to share. So as we are sharing with you, we are growing in this process as well. And this is hugely transformational, as I said before, that these conversations have not always been shared out with the world. Like for me personally, it has been a struggle to be able to talk about these hard things. And just most recently, I've come to learn how powerful our stories are. And we talk a lot about that in our podcast that we just recorded with Robin about the power of vulnerability and what that looks like. As Jordan said, we are always open to be able to talk, and just know that we are growing and transforming our lives right here along with you. In this episode, Jordan and I talked a lot about allowing yourself grace and compassion that you need to feel how you do, and know that it is valid and that it is okay. And anything that you are feeling right now is perfectly fine, but just know that it is important not to get stuck in this place, and to be able to move yourself forward and find peace within yourself. You have to feel to heal, and know that we are here for you, and you are welcome to send us a message at any time. Have a great day, everyone, and make today count.
Thanks for joining us at the For the Good podcast. We would love to connect with you. Join us on Facebook and Instagram at For the Good Official, and our blog at forthegood.com. And be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode.
Remember, a positive mindset is the beginning of true happiness, not just for the good of the individual, but for the good of the world.